7% of our housing stock met the criteria.
Based on town council.
Town council.
Yeah.
Town council said to us, however, the Board of Appeals will file the appeal, but on a condition that the selectmen seek permission to intervene in the appeal and the selectmen prosecute the appeal. And that meant that the Board of Appeals would make the filing, make the notice of the appeal filing, and then an attorney representing the Board of Selectmen would need to go in and seek permission to intervene in the case and prosecute it, not on behalf of the Board of Appeals, but on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. We talked with town council about whether it was even possible to do that, and the advice we had was that it was likely that we would not have legal standing to pursue that appeal, that it would be determined that it could only be the Board of Appeals. So town council's advice to this board was not to appeal, because in his view, it would be a frivolous appeal. It wouldn't have any merit. It would be costly, and we'd have little chance of succeeding on that appeal.
And in addition to that, too, that it would be the same appellate board that should you bring a later appeal, should there be a later appeal upon the awarding or not awarding of a comprehensive permit.
Way down the road, you mean?
Way down the road, that filing a frivolous appeal at this point could jeopardize a later appeal.
I'm not sure if it was frivolous, Tom. I mean, our town planner came up with more than 1.5% of the...
Right, but based upon, again, just based upon the evidence that town council showed us, we were not even, well, a little more than halfway there.
No, I understand that, and that was my problem all along, because, I mean, we use experts for everything, and we're using town council to determine how much land we have in the town. I would rather that we hired a land surveyor or an engineer or somebody that is a professional in calculating land area. Instead, we're using our town council that does purchase and sale agreements for us.
I would have said that if it were closer. I would have said that if it wasn't for the fact that the real issue was not so much the land, but how you put Fuller Village into it. Because without Fuller Village, it doesn't work. There's no way it's going to work, and that's not a land issue. That's a legal issue in terms of does Fuller count? Does all of Fuller count in terms of acreage, or does it not?
Well, now we'll never know.
Well, I just want to add to that, so because I hear what you're saying, Dennis, and when I first heard that town council was looking at these numbers, I mean, I thought we felt that we had a pretty strong case based on the earlier calculations in November and early December, and asked the planning director to go and meet with town council, which he did over a number of afternoons, to really try to pin this information down. Town council's wasn't really, it's the GIS person and the planning director who were looking more at the maps and at the buildable lots and at the acreage and the practical business information, the practical geographic or real estate information. Town council was looking at the regulations, and there's a difference of opinion because an attorney for one of the abutters had a different view of some of the regulations than what town council had. And town council, there's a question of, at the Board of Appeals hearing, and the attorney for one of the abutters said the regulation was inconsistent with the statute. But regulations can clarify or interpret statutes, and that was town council's view, that they weren't inconsistent, that the regulations of the DHCD interpret the statute. So town council wasn't looking really at the real estate and the maps. He was looking at the application of the regulations to the information that town employees provided to him. And his view was that we really didn't have any chance of succeeding on an appeal. So and again, there's two issues here. Number one is the issue of would we even have authority to intervene? Because the decision whether to appeal rests with the Board of Appeals. They asked town council to confer with us really as a courtesy, because they know that we're an elected board, they're not. They're an appointed board, they're an adjudicatory board. We're different. We represent people, and we're elected to represent people in town, and we have a different function. So they were giving us a courtesy of weighing in on this. But again, there was a real question as to whether we'd even be able to do so. because it's the Board of Appeals that has standing to appeal, not the Selectmen. But even more importantly than that is the calculation was so far off. Town council said if this were a close case, if we thought we were at 1.3 or 1.4, I'm just, for example, I'm picking those numbers out, and there was a real question as to whether Fuller Village Phase 1 could count, then we'd be close and it might make sense to pursue the appeal.
Understood.
But there's a big difference between 0.7% and 1.5%.
No, I get that, but that's only our town council's opinion. What about the council for the neighbors that it is almost certain that we're over the 1.5? And he said if we hired the proper people, the proper professionals to calculate the amount of land, that we would have come up with 1.5 and we wouldn't have a 40B application in front of us now.
Well, clearly, again...
But we'll never know because we didn't appeal it. I mean, it's water under the bridge, I get that.
I don't know that we can say we will never know. I mean, town council's role is to interpret the regulations and give us a legal opinion. But the area of, the question of Fuller Village being 30-plus acres, if it was, whether you counted that or not was probably a big determination of whether you were over it or not. And that's a legal question, not so much a...
Right, and a lot of what was being counted on Fuller was, well, two things. Number one, we had the extra units that still were not on the subsidized housing inventory at the time, and town council felt very certain that there was no way that you were going to win that argument, that to count those units in that acreage. And then the...
In his opinion.
Well, it's all opinion.
Right.
Until somebody says...
Based on prior cases at the
Yeah.
Housing Appeals Committee, where, you know, there's not a strong record of towns having a lot of wins at the Housing Appeals Committee.
And then the second one is the rest of the, what do you call it, non-permeable or basically the woods that's at Curry, and could you count that?
Fuller, yeah.
Fuller, and could you count that or not? And again, we were on very shaky ground.
Right, I mean, you know, we have our opinion, it was voted on. I just don't think we represented the neighbors up there properly. We could have done it better, we could have appealed it, we could have held it up for a little while the proper calculations were done, and then, you know, we could have pulled out of it. That was, in my opinion, that would have been the proper procedure. But I think we rushed into it, we took a legal opinion from our town council, which I question, to be quite truthful, and now we're in this predicament. So,
Dennis, I could not disagree more strongly with you.
Oh, that's fine.
I mean, we're all entitled to our opinion, but
Yeah.
it's a legal question, and I think we are entitled to rely on town council's advice. And the presentation that he made to us, in my view, just speaking for myself, was pretty strong, that it would be a frivolous appeal. I mean, to the point where his firm would even be reluctant to take the case on. And he made that clear to us, that, you know, there's an ethical obligation on attorneys about filing appeals if you have absolutely no basis to file one. That was a concern that this board had.
But we never gave it a chance. Like, we never got the professional opinion from a land surveyor to give to our town council. You know, we're relying on GIS. Just let me finish for a second.
Sure.
We were relying on people that work for the DPW to give us these opinions.
But
Work for the DPW, that's...
I understand that, but there are people out there
that... I'm not sure what that really
that...
is intended to mean. We have a GIS expert who's very capable in the area of GIS, and he happens to be housed within the DPW, but he works a lot with the planning director, and that's his job, to work on mapping.
But remember, a month before that, they came up with 1.6%.
But
the issue, though, wasn't the land, the issue
Right.
wasn't the measurement of the land. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the application of law with
That's right.
respect to that land.
I get that.
So you
get
can
that.
hire whoever you want. We were all in agreement that these are the parcels that have
affordable housing.
affordable housing on them, and these are the ones that don't, and these are the ones you don't have to count because, well, even some of those, some of the where the nonprofits were located that that were not counted the first time probably should have been counted, and I think we were all in agreement with that too, that those should be counted in terms of your total land mass. They can't be excluded. And they were.
Meaning that we improperly counted them the first time
Or
when we did the
excluded them.
calculation.
Yeah.
Excluded them. We improperly excluded them the first time when we
Right.
did the calculation.
Right.
So,
But those didn't add up to much anyways.
no, one of the large parcels was the Fuller Village Phase 1, which had been added to our list, but it was added after the filing of this particular project. And under the regulations, that doesn't count. It has to be what's on your SHI prior to the filing,
Right.
or is it the date of the filing?
So that's not something
That's
a
a
land
legal
surveyor or
interpretation.
anybody could do anything about. That's legal
Correct.
interpretation.
That is a legal interpretation, yeah.
So our decision, well, the majority decision was based on the legal interpretation, and we did take a vote not to seek to intervene and prosecute the appeal. And as we understand it, Town Council had another meeting, an executive session with the Board of Appeals, and ultimately, their decision was consistent with what their decision had been at their previous meeting,
Right.
which was not to file the appeal. So the town has not appealed from the determination that we are not at 1.5%. Town Council asked us if, going forward as parcels, we had a 40B permit issue just the other day on a different property. So as we move forward and as different housing gets onto our SHI list, and there's different projects each year that could make that number change. Town Council is going to monitor this for us, keep track of what percentage we're at. At some point, we may be at the 1.5%, and we could at that point seek the certification. But we were pretty far apart from it,
And
based on Mr. Flynn's firm's calculations that he did with the planning director, and that Kathleen O'Donnell had met with him on also.
And for the record, I just want the public to know that I was the lone vote that wanted to appeal the decision. So,
Yes. Yes, and as Tom and I stated at that hearing, we would have liked to have been able to say, if the numbers were closer, that we'd support filing an appeal. But when they're so far apart, it's a pretty hard thing to be able to justify. So, for the resident who made the comment at Citizen Speak, and it was written in a front page article in the Milton Times that the neighborhood has lost support from 2 members of the Board of Selectmen. I think that's unfair. I disagree with that. I think all the comments that this board has made, our department heads have made, relating to the specifics of that project, the size, stormwater issues, density, closeness to the abutting homes, ability to get fire trucks to turn around, traffic, all of those are issues that we still are pursuing and will be pursuing. Our department heads will continue to be pursuing at the Board of Appeals hearing. And I think none of us have changed our views on the underlying merits of the case, but on the narrow issue that was before us, did we want to intervene? We didn't know whether we'd have standing to do so and prosecute the appeal. We voted not to, and then the Board of Appeals made the final decision, and it is their decision. Do we have any other comments? Hopefully this discussion at least sheds some light for members of the public who have questions about this as to where things stand on the appeal and why the town did not appeal. Any other comments?
no, I'm good.
Then we are now on to the town administrator's report.
Yes, Madam Chair. As was mentioned earlier this evening by Selectman Hurley, we were notified today from DCR that we are going to get the 1-year permit extension for the Ullin Skating Rink, so we'll put that on your agenda for March 24th. As was stated a little earlier tonight, the Board of Appeals last evening issued a comprehensive permit.
But we stole all your thunder, huh?
I know you did.
Can I just go back to your first one? What
Yes.
happens when so we got an extension to the town?
Yes.
And then we have the opportunity to extend to Curry or to
Well, they're
whoever?
two separate issues, but
Yeah.
the one is DCR has extended, or given us the option of entering into an agreement to extend the operating
Okay.
permit for
That was the
one more
question,
year.
yeah.
And then it's up to us whether we want to accept that, and then how we're going to operate if we do accept it.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Marie.
That's okay. Last evening, the Board of Appeals did issue a comprehensive permit to the Henry's Building at 131 Elliott Street, and it was clocked in today at the town clerk's office. And it is up on the town's website. So
Can you
good.
explain what that means?
Good.
That means they can move forward with building their 40B project down at
many units?
130.
57 units?
57 units, yes.
So 57 units have been approved down at the Henry site.
That's correct.
Yep.
It's a 21-day appeal. So,
As of today.
yes, it was clocked in today at the town clerk's office.
And it's a 50% local preference.
Oh, is it, yeah?
Yeah.
Which is low.
which is low,
Which is
yeah.
low.
Who determined that?
It's the way the decision got written.
Board of
Yeah, the Board
Appeals.
of Appeals. I met today with Joe Lynch and Town Accountant to talk about the snow and ice deficit, go over some numbers. Joe Lynch will be in at your next meeting, March 24th, to go into further detail on this. But at this time, it's approximately $1,055,106 snow and ice deficit. But we have identified a source of funds
Is
to,
that just DPW, or does that include police overtime?
it
and-
includes police overtime, it includes your contractors, it includes your equipment repairs, property damage to homeowners.
What was that number
fencing
again,
and-
Emery? Sorry.
$1,055,106. And we went over today, and we will continue to go over with Ted Hayes, the chair of the warrant committee, to identify the source of funds to pay the snow and ice deficit. And to continue on that, we will be meeting tomorrow. The emergency management team that was put in place about a little over a month ago to deal with the snow and ice issues in the town will be meeting tomorrow for hopefully our last follow-up meeting to discuss the operational plan, what worked, what didn't work, how we can improve the process going forward in future years. We'll talk about the pothole program plan for the springtime and hydrant replacement program.
Hydrant replacement.
Replacement program. There were some hydrants that were damaged during the
Oh, is that right?
snowstorms. So we do have to replace those.
Hmm.
So we want to get a replacement program in place.
Putting one on Oak Street that was removed entirely.
Exactly.
So that one's going to need to be replaced as soon as we can.
When you take one off entirely, does the water just
I asked that question as
Gosh.
well, and they said, no, it's
Really? Is there some kind of a shut-off?
yeah,
Yeah, you have a
lower
cap.
than the street level, yes. I had that same question.
And that's it, Madam
Like you see
Chair.
in the comedy shows, you know, it's-
That's all I have, Madam.
Exactly.
The chair's report, I wasn't going to report anything, but just to follow up on what the town administrator said, we said this once before, but we are going to be scheduling a discussion as we get into the spring about, to give people an opportunity to give us some input on what didn't work, what we need to improve on in the DPW. We know there have been a number of issues, and we're not ignoring them, but we're going to be addressing them and how we think it's appropriate to start with our local emergency planning people and have them come up with some initial recommendations. But communication and just operational issues need to be looked at going forward, and what changes we might want to make.
I agree. I mean, it makes sense to look at it. I think you got to keep it in perspective, though. It clearly
Yes.
was a 100-year event.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't want to expend resources to plan every year for a 100-year event, you know.
No.
I mean, so there's got to be some balance, that's
Yes,
all.
I agree. And we'll come up with an opportunity for there to be some public input into this.
Right.
Although I think all of us have heard from enough people and responded to enough people that we have a pretty good sense of what the issues are here.
Yes, we have.
Yes, Mrs. Rizzi was on the front lines fielding all the calls.
We did.
Does anyone else have anything to report?
I don't.
Just wanted to talk about, just for a minute, about the, I spoke with Joe Lynch today, and the latest issue we're having in town is a lot of broken water pipes. And I think we've had 7 leaks between the town and between private homeowners. So people have called me and they ask me, how do you know if you've got a broken water pipe and why does it happen? Well, we've had 3 to 4 feet of hardened ground, we'll say, in front of people's houses, and the water pipe is usually 3 feet under the ground. So when it begins to thaw out, sometimes the earth shifts, the ground shifts, and if the pipe is old, it'll pull it and it'll break. I actually had it happen to me a number of years ago. And there's 2 ways you can determine if you have a broken pipe. One is if you got reduced water pressure in your faucets or your shower. And second is if you see some water pooling at the front of your house that you normally wouldn't have. Well, the advice from the DPW is to make sure you call them immediately, because it's a waste of water, it's before the meter, and the town actually pays for that waste of water. So it's essential if you see any reduced pressure or pooling of water, call us immediately.
Okay, good information.
Yeah.
Anything else, anyone? Citizen speak response.
I was delighted to see a gentleman come up and compliment the DPW.
That was nice,
Yes.
yes, I agree.
Nice to
You
at
know.
least hear a different perspective.
It was. We understand people were frustrated, and you mentioned it, Katie. People were frustrated over this storm, but we didn't get a lot of compliments personally, but it is nice to get one. It makes you want to do the job again, you know. So thank you to that gentleman.
Yes. Citizen speak, anything else? Future agenda items? Okay, then I think we already have a lot on for the 24th at our next meeting, so that's a good thing.
Move to adjourn?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. No executive session tonight.